Hello, I'm Hope Logan. I'm an actor on Bold and the Beautiful, and many people really love both me and our Bold and the Beautiful drama. So I've come here to share updates about my beloved Bold and the Beautiful. Everyone, please subscribe and support me. If you do, I will keep coming every day with new updates for you. The storm that Sheila had been holding inside for so long finally broke without hesitation. And this time, there was no room for compromise. Every word that left her lips carried the weight of years filled with rejection, loneliness, and desperate longing, making it painfully clear that she was done settling for empty promises. Sheila had already said exactly what she believed, and now she was equally determined to get exactly what she wanted. There was no uncertainty in her voice, no hidden agenda buried beneath polite conversation, only a fierce resolve that refused to bend. As the events of Wednesday, July 8th unfolded, it became obvious that Sheila was prepared to stand her ground, no matter how uncomfortable the consequences became for everyone around her. She had reached a point where giving in was no longer an option, and anyone hoping she would quietly accept defeat was about to discover just how immovable she had become. Meanwhile, Deacon found himself trapped between love and impossible reality, painfully aware that the future of his marriage rested on an obstacle that seemed almost impossible to overcome. Sheila's refusal to sign the divorce papers wasn't rooted in revenge alone. It was fueled by something she believed had been stolen from her for far too long. If she was going to lose Deacon, then she refused to lose everything else as well. In her mind, there was one condition that had to be met before she would even consider letting go of the marriage. She wanted access to Finn, the son she had spent years yearning to be close to, and she wanted the chance to know Hayes, the grandson whose life she had only been forced to observe from a heartbreaking distance. Those weren't simply demands in Sheila's eyes. They were the pieces of family she believed she deserved before agreeing to surrender the only relationship she still had left. Deacon understood that there was only one path forward, but it was a path littered with emotional landmines. If Sheila was ever going to sign those papers, he had to accomplish something that seemed almost unimaginable. He had to convince Steffi to allow Sheila to see Finn and Hayes. It was a request burdened with years of pain, fear, betrayal, and memories that refused to fade. Steffi had spent so much of her life protecting the people she loved from Sheila's dangerous influence that asking her to reverse course felt almost impossible. Yet Deacon knew there was no shortcut, no clever negotiation, and no alternative solution. Everything depended on whether Steffi could be persuaded to reconsider a position she had defended for years with unwavering determination. Watching the situation unfold, Taylor could hardly hide her skepticism. She knew her daughter better than anyone, and she understood exactly how deeply Sheila's actions had scarred Steffi over the years. The possibility of granting Sheila any access to Finn or Hayes wasn't simply another family discussion. It threatened to reopen wounds that had never truly healed. Taylor recognized that Steffi's opinion of Sheila had remained remarkably consistent despite the passing years. Every apology, every promise of redemption, and every attempt by Sheila to present herself as a changed woman had failed to erase the fear and mistrust that still lingered beneath the surface. In Taylor's eyes, believing that Steffi would suddenly welcome Sheila into their lives felt dangerously unrealistic, especially when so much was at stake for their family's peace and security. But Sheila refused to be intimidated by anyone's doubts. Her determination only hardened as opposition continued to surround her. She stood firm, making her true intentions impossible to misunderstand, declaring that she would not sign a single divorce document unless she received exactly what she was asking for. There were no half measures, no negotiations, and no willingness to compromise. Every painful rejection she had endured had led to this defining moment, and she was no longer interested in accepting whatever scraps of family connection others were willing to offer. Whether people believed she had truly changed or not no longer mattered in her mind. What mattered was finally fighting for the chance to be part of Finn's life and to know Hayes before that opportunity disappeared forever. While emotions threatened to consume one corner of Los Angeles, another crisis was rapidly unfolding inside the walls of Forrester Creations. Ridge found himself carrying the enormous burden of trying to steady a company that suddenly seemed to be spinning out of control. The shocking situation surrounding Logan had placed the Forrester family in an incredibly difficult position, creating uncertainty that reached every level of the business. Hope's departure from the company had already sent shockwaves through everyone involved, but what happened next only deepened the crisis. The unexpected launch of her collection, carried out entirely without their knowledge, left Ridge, Steffi, and the rest of the Forrester leadership scrambling to understand how events had slipped so completely beyond their control. What should have been a carefully managed business strategy instead exploded into chaos, leaving the company searching desperately for its next move. As the pressure mounted, Ridge and Steffi made the difficult decision to place every single Forrester line on hold while they assessed the damage. No collection escaped the freeze, not even Electra's jewelry line, which had been filled with so much promise before everything suddenly unraveled. The timing could not have been worse. The stunning reveal of Logan's jewelry collection, combined with the unveiling of the Hope for the Future diamond, completely shifted the spotlight and sent waves of frustration throughout the company. For Electra, the emotional impact became almost impossible to ignore. She watched months of anticipation become overshadowed in an instant, leaving her confidence shaken and her future clouded with uncertainty. The excitement she once felt about her own work was quickly replaced by disappointment, confusion, and a growing sense that the people closest to her had allowed her to be blindsided. Those emotions soon spilled into her personal life, where the damage proved just as painful. Electra's frustration ultimately drove her to walk away from Will, believing that he had failed to protect her from the truth. She couldn't understand how someone she cared about could stay silent while his family made decisions that affected her career so dramatically. In her eyes, the Spencer family's actions had rippled outward, causing real harm to the Forresters and leaving innocent people caught in the middle. Rather than feeling supported, Electra felt betrayed. The realization that Will had known more than she did only deepened her heartbreak, convincing her that trust between them had been fractured in ways that would not be easily repaired. The pain wasn't simply about business anymore. It had become intensely personal. Even amid all the conflict, Ridge found himself unable to completely condemn Will. Although he had gone as far as firing him, Ridge continued to believe that beneath the mistakes and poor choices was a fundamentally good young man. That belief, however, came with significant frustration. Will's recent decisions had repeatedly disappointed him, and his violent confrontation with RJ had pushed their relationship into dangerous territory. Ridge could not overlook behavior that threatened his own family, and he certainly wasn't prepared to excuse it. Yet despite all of Will's failures, Ridge couldn't shake the feeling that the young man was being shaped by forces far beyond his own judgment. Rather than seeing Will as inherently flawed, Ridge saw someone whose moral compass had been distorted by the powerful influence surrounding him. In Ridge's mind, that influence had one unmistakable source. He believed Bill Spencer stood at the center of Will's troubling transformation. Time and again, Ridge had watched Bill's worldview affect those closest to him, and now he feared that Will was becoming another casualty of that influence. Ridge couldn't help imagining how different the young man might have become if he had been guided by different values and different examples. That belief gave Ridge one final reason not to abandon hope. Instead of writing Will off completely, he chose to reach out to Electra, hoping to soften her anger and convince her that the young man deserved another chance. Whether his words would be enough to repair the damage remained uncertain, but Ridge was determined to make her see that sometimes people become products of the environments that shape them, rather than the people they truly wish to be. As these emotional battles collided, One truth stood above everything else. Sheila had finally reached the point where she would no longer hide behind vague promises or uncertain intentions. Every demand she made, every condition she set, and every stand she took pointed toward one unmistakable conclusion. She was no longer asking for permission to want a place in Finn and Hayes's lives. She was insisting upon it. Whether her determination would bring reconciliation or ignite an even greater war remained to be seen. But one thing had become impossible to deny. Sheila had made her true intentions unmistakably clear, and the lives of everyone connected to her were about to be forever changed by the consequences of that unwavering resolve.